hands together for Sumit.
Some of us are very fortunate to have grown up with our grandparents. Who here has grown up with their grandparents? A few of us. Very fortunate that 25 years ago, just a week before my sister was born, my nana and my nani turned up in England, landed in Heathrow and came to Slough. Now, nana, nani, general terms, and I want to focus on the Rani, which was my nani ma, who we lovingly called Jaiji. Now, Jaiji wasn't particularly educated. She was a small, humble lady that wore a sari and a petticoat every day, and she had worn earrings her whole life that she had a big stretch in her earlobe. Have you all seen that in an auntie or a grandma before? Very humble, hair in a bun. My Jaiji, lovingly. And she got married before 18, and then the next 20 years produced over 10 children. And back in the 40s and the 50s, having 6 daughters and 4 sons was not often heard of. Very strong, very resilient. You don't hear of 10 kids these days. And I think, listening to the stories earlier today, that number of kids wasn't known back then. And for a lady to give birth to 10 kids, and off to war her husband would go, very strong, very resilient character was our Jaiji. And of those 10 children, she had to, in her lifetime, witness 2 of her sons dying before she did. What a pain history has taught her. What a pain for any parent to lose their child. But Jaiji was very humble, very quiet. She would never start a conversation, but if you engaged her, you'd definitely learn a whole world of wisdom from the years that she had grown through. Now, moving to this country, English, of course, wasn't her first language, and she wasn't about to try and learn spelling and grammar and the vocabulary we have. But she would listen in on conversation and speak Hindi and Punjabi wherever she could. We actually used to, at birthday, we'd sing happy birthday, and Jaiji couldn't say the word birthday, so she would just say happy Juju. And it became lovely, and we went to birthdays and we would say happy Juju, because it was what Jaiji used to say. As I mentioned, she was around when my sister was born, and so my mom's the youngest of Jaiji's 10 children. And so having her around was very helpful for my mom to bring Vidhu up, because obviously I was very mature. And so Vidhu would come home after school, and Jaiji would sometimes pick her up and wouldn't know which classroom she was in, but she found her, because little old Jaiji in her sari and petticoat every day, pick Vidhu up, bring her home, and Vidhu would put TV on and watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Now in that program there's a cat. What's the cat's name? This crowd doesn't know. Salem. Yes. Black cat Salem. And in this program, Salem would talk. He was a witch that was trapped in the cat's body. And so Vidhu and Jaiji would watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And one day, I was at home and Mom was home, but Vidhu wasn't around. And we turned the TV on and it was on the last channel and Sabrina was on. And Jaiji said, "Tumhe pata? Billiyan bhi bol diya." In this program, there's a cat that talks. Jaiji knew Salem. Salem was Jaiji's friend. In fact, one day when Vidhu did come home, Jaiji was telling Vidhu what happened in the program. They went here, they did this, they went here. So despite moving to a country where she did not know the language, she was able to assimilate and get involved with her grandchildren's lives. Our Jaiji. In her later life, she moved to my Masi's house in Derby as she grew older. And she was very strong. She would never need a walking stick or anything like that. Even if she was prescribed one, she wouldn't really use it. When she got quite older, things start becoming frail. And so she was given a Zimmer frame to say, use this, practice on it. She would never take it out, but in the garden, on a summer's day, you'd see Jaiji walking up, and at my Masi's house, you'd sit on the sofa, big patio door, and you'd see Jaiji walk across, and then walk back, and then across, and then back. And you'd see this all day. She, in fact, got the nickname Marathon Woman. And And so we had another grandma yesterday who was in a marathon. My Jaiji had a marathon of her own. She was given these lovely, loving nicknames. She was very strong in her resolve. She had 10 children, she moved to another country, didn't learn the language, and grew. And she didn't need anyone to do anything for her. She would make her own roti, she would eat it, and there was one particular day where she made her roti, ate it, cleaned it, had a shower, and went to sleep for the very last time at 92 years of age. So she had a very long, fulfilled life. This generation asks a lot of questions. Why do we do RD? Why do we go to the Mandir? Why do we think? Why? And I very much was like that. And I asked my mum, why do we do this thing? And I remember, mum would always say, because my mum told me. And so, I caught mum out once because I knew her mum was still in the house. Jaiji was there. Mum had told me that you can tell the future from the stars. In my, 14, 15-year-old mind, that makes zero sense. Mercury, Venus, future, what are you on about? She said, my mum told me. Jaiji, I've got a question for you. I spoke to her in Hindu and Punjabi. And I asked her, what mum said that you said, you can tell the future from the stars. What are you on about? And if you remember your grandparents' generation, they didn't have Vaani. They didn't have excellent elocution skills or were able to elaborate in language that we can use fruitfully today. And so Jaiji's response to me wasn't an explanation that my young mind understood. It was just stating fact. Yes, you can tell this future from the stars. Now that Jaiji's moved on and I'm growing up, I'm fascinated with Jyotish and being able to read your palms and this whole idea of the future in the planets. I can cognize. I can't explain it, but I know there is some truth in that. And so in infinite wisdom that our grandparents had, the struggles they grew through, emigrating and had large families, there is a timeless wisdom within that. And so if ever you've learned anything about your grandparents, it's that they had wisdom, strength, resilience, and brought up beautiful children that you see around you. So if you've still got your grandparent, ask them questions, sit with them, read, learn. If you haven't, go find out about them and do a speak.